Well, hallelujah and praise the Lord. This is going to be about a training session I had with the AIRSEVER developer. And one of the questions I had was about inserting the logo on a schedule. So here we are, and he's showing us the graphics. You have to add the logo there so that it shows up on the other screen, and you'll see how you add it there in a minute. And then you'll see the drop down on the graphics there. See the logo shows up now. You can determine when it comes on, when it comes off. He was going quickly through there, but now it will come up during that event. Now you'll also notice that the graphics button is right there. Those buttons are being assigned to the logo, or you can clear it, and that would be a manual take. There you go. He manually takes the logo there. This is where the CG was added, right here on that last screen that you saw. That came by real quick. I'm sorry, we had to re-record this because the screen recorder wasn't going correctly for a while. But you have to add it on that screen. You may have to freeze. Maybe I can bring it up as a frozen picture here. And then once it's added there, then you import it here. Now here we're discussing automation live source of how to switch to a live source on an unused input on the Blackmagic card. Now I had 3 and 4, but we're showing it with 2 here. So you select your live external source. Right now it's showing the dual number 2 input, but it could have been number 4 or number 3. You can experiment to find out which ones are available. Now, once that is assigned as a live source, then the EE source can be turned into a live external source. And then you can switch to EE2, and that would switch through the scheduling to the live external source that would be on the dual card, let's say 3 or 4 input. One doesn't have an input. So there is a way, but it's not like pushing a button. You have to reassign the EE source to one of the other inputs using that live stream source. And that will get you the ability to have an alternate input, such as a studio feed. Although you have to kind of select whether you're going to use the satellite or one of your inputs for the EE source. Now here we were discussing the in and out points on the screen, and here if you look up here, it shows next to this window there you got preview, clip, and master. The clip is where you can set the audio level for your clip, and the preview is for your speaker, and then you hit save. Now the master is just left set there. Okay, so we were just showing that, he was just showing me how that was going to work. Now we were looking at the library here. I had another question about scheduled recording, but that wasn't completed yet at this time. I think I need a software update to have the scheduled recording functionality on mine. Now we can record manually, but we can't record. I think he's checking the files here. We can't record automatically yet until that update is done. So he's returning it back to normal here. Then you have, of course, the CG. The live source is how you bring in a live and select a live as an alternate EE source. So, and you can see it here in this window. This is a good place to preview your alternate sources. Now right now he's got it selected on what would be normally our satellite source, which would be input number 2 on the DeckLink Duo, and that would normally be what it is. So that's what we're showing here, and we'll be moving on in a moment. But anyways, that's the external. Under the automation tab is external software, basically assigning the EE in a case. Now, and then we reviewed it again. I also asked him about streaming, and you can send a stream out here of the various settings and types of streams available. But I was talking to him about it, and I think a better option is to have an external streaming box or computer with a dual card and OBS software instead of loading the server down with the own internal web stream. Although it can do it. It can do it right there. Now the next thing we were asking about, I was asking him about, and you said you have to check that stream, is this live button there. What does this live button do? Well, the live button will actually switch the EE source to live, but in order for it to work, you have to hold the left mouse key down, or left mouse button down, and then click the right simultaneously. It's kind of like the button is locked out. So you got to hold the left button down and then click the right, and you got to play back and forth on that a few times, and you will see that I finally get it here after I was playing with the mouse buttons back and forth, that I'm going to be up there. I took the EE source directly live. Now, if manually. Now, if that was, and he also told me that you have to go back and make sure that the AirMaster was on hold, otherwise it will, or stopped. Otherwise, he'll take it away from you at the next timed event. Okay. In other words, we just did a manual live switch, but I had left AirMaster running. Now he said he was going to show me how to join back. This is like a jump absolute, this JIP. And so you can join back an event already in progress at the correct time by highlighting it and hit JIP. And you see now that Joyce Meyer is back on the air. So we'll try it again here in a moment. Okay, so the satellite is coming in on the EE source, which is our external video feed. It could be a studio feed or whatever, depending how we set it up earlier. Now, if we hold the left mouse button down and then we're getting, I'm the one there. Now we got it again. Now see how it's live there? Now he's showing me. Now if we want to join Joyce Meyer again, see how it went red there? You can go down to the current event and hit JIP, and then that will join an event already in progress at the appropriate point. Now, if we would just hit take, it would wait to the next necessarily the timed re-entry point, if you follow me. See how it's showing red there? Now, let's say we want to go back. We want to go back to Joyce Meyer. And so we're going to do a JIP, or I like calling it jump absolute. That's the nomenclature I would use for that. And so we jumped absolutely back in, and if you'll notice, the file is actually still playing. So it's not super intuitive, but it is a way of going live that way. I think what we're going to do is hook an external, just simple 4x1 router and then just switch between the sources. But it does get, for going live, it does give you the ability to do it though, without an external router, especially if you have the right card with the multiple inputs. It's just, you have to tweak it a little bit and troubleshoot it a little bit. Now, there's a bug where now the button is grayed, but it's functional. In other words, it's just because it hasn't refreshed or whatever. If you notice there, it looks different. So, but actually, Joyce Meyer is back on the air there. So that was quite interesting, actually. And then if you hit take, well, the event was already going, so it wasn't, we were just highlighting the difference between jump absolute and take. Then he was discussing that I had too many timed events, that I should really just have timed events once in a while and then scale them in, even if it's a second or two rollover, that all those timed events like that weren't really required for every single show, that even though some spots may be a second or two over or under, that it, you know, it will basically go out in the wash on the next timed event. The problem is if you're doing all timed events, it's going to be doing some cutting. It's going to be doing some clipping of various items. And then you have to refresh in order for the times to recycle themselves there. In other words, he just made a bunch of changes by taking out timed events. But if you didn't hit refresh, you wouldn't have seen the changes that took place there. Yeah, I was wanting to record him, but I didn't have it set up yet. I had to get OBS Studio because we didn't have the TeamViewer master license in OBS Studio, and I didn't have the phone tied into the audio feed or an external microphone even, so you get the idea. So I'm kind of just going by, again, by what he said in the long run here. So anyways, we were talking about now the EE event obviously should be timed. Although he was showing me a manual event. You can set a manual event where it will wait there until you kick it to start again. Although I don't really know he was saying that, that's for when you don't know an event's going to start. But of course we always know that. But now the EE event, because of the digital delay on satellites, if you want a quick switch, like if the show started at noon, really we have to start it at 12:02. Otherwise there's going to be a glitch because of the time difference between the master control at CTN and here. Not that the clocks are different, there's a digital delay going through the satellite. So now we're talking about, he said if you put an X at the end, that will keep the event but kill it, as you just saw, if you go with the ID. And then we were talking about library maintenance. I was asking him, can you have folders in the clip folder, the main storage room? And yet he says you can, but what my problem was, I had dumped everything in there before I made folders, and then so when you transfer them out, you can see where that may change the file path. But on a new build, it would definitely be good to have folders like, for local shows or one for spots. Not that they necessarily all show up in different places in the database down below there, but it's a lot easier to keep track of what you have in there instead of scrolling through thousands of files when you're doing uploads. Yeah, and basically we're talking about that here. We're talking about file management, and he was telling me that it checks the file, and if that goes red where that OK is there, that internal check, that the file is defective, then because it's running its own internal checking, and that you can delete it and re-upload it or whatever. But you can delete files from this screen here. And also, I was talking to him, in order to delete logs, I put a shortcut on the desktop. The logs exist locally as a file, but when you send them to the server, they go into the database. So unless the log is sent, it doesn't go into the database. So that's the end of the video here, but what I mean is you can then delete the local file if it's giving you problems, and then re-upload it into the database. And he also said that the logs should be switched over at midnight, and then pick them up again. It may work a different way, but he was advising me to have them all midnight to midnight, and then if the show continues past midnight like you and me, just restart the next log. So. Well, that was about all we did. So, all right. Have a good one, guys. Thanks.